I'm back with Rochelle Ripley, and hopefully you saw our last episode about Standing Rock and the pipeline and all the kind of things that go along with that, and about the history of the treaties. If you did not, please, I encourage you to find it. You can contact me if you can't find it where you found this. But we're talking about the things that are actually happening there, and you just got back there, and I'll let our viewers know. Today, we are filming this on November 17th, 2016, not scheduled to be in the studio. So we just said this is stuff that has to be shared right now. You just got back and you had been in touch with me by phone, and I'm still shaking from the things that you shared with me, that you witnessed.
That I witnessed, yes.
And that we know the people that these are happening to, not third, fourth, fifth generation stories.
Right, correct. Correct. So I went out to Cheyenne River for a family funeral, sadly, and my brother also came out, and we factored in there 2 days to go up to Standing Rock. So the first day was a Thursday. Population was down a little. A lot of people have to leave and go to work and come back on the weekends. We went back on Saturday, and on Saturday it had swelled to its normal size, which is about 10,000 people from all over the world. The Sami people of the North Pole, we have Aboriginals from New Zealand and Australia, people from South America, tribes from all over the United States. And one of the most remarkable things was when we arrived there, there's a main road. I mean, it really looks like a little city now, not paved, of course. And when you enter it, there's just row of flags on both sides of this, this pathway. The first one on the left is the United Nations flag, and the one on the right is Amnesty International, because both of them are on the ground documenting the abuses that are happening to the Native and Native supported
So they're
people.
not perceived abuses then? If they're
No, they're there.
abuses.
Yes, correct. They're there and they're documenting. And it's kind of a sad statement for the United States. We
Yeah.
think of sending them to places in the world where things are not right. Well, they're not right up there either. So I want to talk about a couple of our friends that you know as well, and the incidents that I saw or was talking directly to the people to whom this happened. One of them is Winona Gasco, who you know, who is an amazing cook, and she's been up there since the very beginning. She's cooking every day for up to 4,000 people a day. There are 3 other cook shacks, but she's doing all traditional. So when you go to her shack, you're getting buffalo stew, and you're getting wajabi, and you're getting fry bread. And she's been working round the clock 7 days a week. She's an amazing woman and a very spiritual woman. So she's kind of a core place. So when I went up on that Thursday, I went up with one of our veterans, who you know, Robert, and he is the head of security for the Cheyenne River section on the camp. And he sort of drove us around so we could kind of get a lay of the land and where everything was, and we stopped by Winona. And then he said, I'm going to go do my scouting. Why don't you guys come with me? And he drove us down to a tributary of the Missouri. So when you get down to this area, there's this tributary, which is pretty wide, and then there's a bluff, and on the other side of the bluff is the Missouri River. And he sat in the car facing the bluff, and he was quiet for a while, and then he reached down and he took a pair of binoculars up, and he began to scan the bluff with his binoculars. And then he handed the binoculars to me, and he said, focus in on that tree up there, the only tree. And it's not a lot of trees out there, and I did, and he said, now scan slowly to the left and tell me what you see. So I scanned to the left, and I said, I see what looks like to be a large boulder. He said, that's not a boulder. I said, well, what is it? He said, keep watching. And he said, it should move shortly. It was a sniper armed with an automatic long weapon rifle. And it really, you know, it hit me at my heart. I mean, it just hit me, because right behind us were the children running around and playing, the elders sitting and visiting with one another, all in the line of fire. He then said scan to the right, and there were 3 more. These are private security forces, sort of like the old Blackwater was, that have been hired by DAPL. They were on U.S. Army Corps of Engineers land, which they're not allowed to be on. And all I could see in my heart was Wounded Knee of 1890, because it was the same setup. A bluff around which the military formed, shooting down on the people. And it was horrifying. I mean, I have to tell you how horrified I felt. I mean, these are my friends and family behind me. Of course, we're in the line of fire as well, but I never actually thought about that. We left there. He told us on the way up that this had happened a couple of days ago to some elders who were sitting under a tree in the camp. He spotted a sniper in the tree above them, went and removed the elders.
The tree up where
they were sitting, yeah. And he said, these guys are all ex-military, usually Green Berets and
So marksman.
and SEALs. These guys know what they're doing, they're sharpshooters. And when he moved the elders, they were like, they're elders, they wanted to sit, they were visiting their friends, and when they realized after he told them what happened, they were pretty well shaken. But what's happening is people are being harassed and attacked in incredible ways. We are committed to nonviolence. You are not allowed to bring a weapon into the camp, alcohol, or drugs. If you're found with those, you are expelled from the camp. It is just not allowed. This is a peaceful, nonviolent resistance, and that is how it will remain. So I want to tell you the story of Trenton, and you know Trenton. You taught a class to him on photography.
Love that kid.
He's wonderful.
Such a kind-hearted, compassionate young man.
He is. He's extraordinary. He's about 20, I think he just turned 20. And Trenton was in a sweat lodge. Now, sweat lodge for the native people is like your church, your synagogue, or your mosque would be in other religions. It is a center of sacredness for us. He was in there with a few other young men having a sweat lodge experience, praying, mainly praying, some drumming, but mainly praying. And the DAPL people came in, tore the sweat lodge apart, took the sacred objects, including our sacred pipes, plowed, bulldozed everything into a pile, all the possessions of anybody that had anything down there, tents, sweat lodges, sacred chanukas, and arrested everybody that was down there who were just supporting the sweat lodge. They were arrested on felonies. Trenton was thrown to the ground in the mud, handcuffed behind his back. Now when men go in the lodge, they only wear cotton shorts, so he was essentially almost naked. Anytime anyone went near him to try to give him a blanket or give him a coat, they were arrested. And you have to understand that when people are arrested out there, they're brought to the North Dakota jails. The governor of North Dakota is heavily financially invested in the DAPL line. So he's no friend of anybody's there. And they're brought to these small little towns where, they have 1 or 2 cells. And so in order to accommodate all these hundreds and hundreds of people they've been illegally arresting, they set up dog kennels, like you would find at your SPCA. Tall. I don't want people to think that people were crawling into them. Not dog crates, dog kennels. And they were herded into there. In one case, one of the elders I spoke with, elder women, she was herded in with 14 other elders. No seats, no blankets, nothing. They had no water, they had no food. They're herded into here for a period of about 19 to 20 hours. And these are elders. But before they were herded in, they were strip searched and body cavity checked. These are your grandmothers and your great-grandmothers who had their bodies invaded for absolutely no reason. Humiliate, discourage, and try to push people out of resisting this pipeline.
I'm still in shock about the sweat lodge. Now, this is not the first time I've heard it, because you told me already, and I literally wept while you were telling me. Can you imagine somebody going to a church, a temple, a synagogue, right in the middle of services, plowing through it, taking all the sacred objects?
And arresting everybody for being inside that,
In our country today.
Exactly. And that's what's happening on a regular basis. Tear gas is being used continuously. They're using rubber bullets, and I think people don't get the concept of rubber bullets. They think, oh, it's only rubber. Well, rubber bullets...
No, we're not talking Nerf balls.
No, correct. We're talking hard projectiles that if they hit you in the face, you will get a swelling the size of a grapefruit. If it hits you in the eye, you will be blind. It could penetrate into your brain and kill you. If it hits you in your neck, it's going to knock out your trachea, and you will likely suffocate. This is not a minor thing. We had a young man, and you know his mom, Amanda, who was a minor who was shot. He was shot by rubber bullets, and the horse he was riding on was shot and killed by rubber bullets. He was then arrested and taken to jail. As a minor, they would not let the tribal attorneys or his parents know where he was or have access to parental or attorney's rights. So this is widespread what's happening there. It's huge.
And people are saying, well, how come we don't hear about it?
Right.
Because the damn election took everybody's attention, and it was a diversion. And people are focused on the wrong things.
Right, correct. It's sort of like, don't look at the man behind the mirror or behind the curtain. Just look over here, look over here. And the election didn't have to do that. There was plenty of time to cover this. And in fact, credit where credit's due, Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC went out there and covered it. We had Amy Goodman from Democracy Now!, formerly of the Boston Globe, come out and cover it. Amy was there the day that the Dapple Private Security let loose vicious dogs on our children when they were digging up our cemetery. And she has that. You can go to Amy Goodman at Democracy Now! And you can watch the video with blood coming out of these German Shepherd dogs' mouths that sent our children and elders to the hospital with severe dog bites. It's not something I'm making up. You can go and you can see it. You can go to Democracy Now! And follow a whole lot of what's going on. You can go to, and I think you're going to run credits at the end, or information at the end. You can go to the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and you can see all the kinds of information you need to see. Plus you can make a donation if you wish to support the pipeline resistors that are there. We're heading into winter. It's brutal in North Dakota. We're expecting, I think, about 12 inches of snow tonight at the camp. But people have said that's too bad. We're staying. We're not leaving. So what happened that's really interesting and hopefully positive is that the Army Corps of Engineers under President Obama had been doing some research, and they found that in fact there are violations. They did not wait for they didn't consult with tribes or wait for their approval. There's no environmental study that had been done about the damage that can be done by this to the environment. And so they just issued a statement, and I'm just going to read a little small section of it, which means I have to put my glasses on. So what they said was that the government-to-government relationship between the United States and the tribes requires that the Dapple Corporation and Energy Transfer has to engage in dialogue with the tribes. So they said the Army invites the tribes to engage in a discussion regarding potential conditions on the easement for the pipeline crossing that would reduce the risks of a spill or a rupture, hasten detection and response to any possible spill, or otherwise enhance the protection of Lake Oahe, which is where the Missouri is called that at that point, and the tribe's water supplies. So what they have said in here, that while these discussions are ongoing, construction on or under the Corps land bordering the Lake Oahe cannot occur, because, this is exact quote, because the Army has not made a final decision on whether to grant an easement. That's pretty clear, which means all activity should have stopped. They're almost under the river. They continue, the CEO of Energy Transfer said, we're putting this pipeline in, we don't care what anyone says. So we want everyone to call President Obama and say, you've got to act on it now. Now we're realists, we realize in a couple of months that we're going to have Trump in as president, and he has money personally invested in this pipeline, as does the governor of North Dakota.
That's not a rumor.
No.
Repeat that. Repeat that.
The incoming president has money invested in both Energy Transfer and the Dakota Access Pipeline. He will not recuse himself. He doesn't have any history of recusing himself.
And the head of Dapple donated to the Trump campaign.
Correct. So there is a relationship there. We know he's going to want to go forward with it, but we need to get as much in place legally ahead of time to be able to fight it in court. And the president did stop the KXL line, and he can stop this one right now. The problem is nobody's monitoring. Nobody's monitoring. So you can say don't do it, but it's like sending your kids into their room to clean the room, and you say go in there and clean that room. But you never go back to see if what's really happening. So it's really vital because they're losing money every day that they have not been able to start the flow of oil through. And it is, our understanding is the state of North Dakota is virtually bankrupt because it has cost them so much money with their National Guard and their police from all over the area. They have called in police and National Guard from all the surrounding states, and several of the states have refused because their police forces have gone there and they've said, we're not going to be a part of this. We had a long-term, 17-year police officer sent to the front lines, and he quit on the spot and handed his badge in and said, I won't stay for my pension. I will not be part of this. So it isn't just our perspective. We're seeing that coming from a lot of different directions. And
One thing that we've spoken about privately, but you did not share, that I think it would be important for people to understand. When you talked about the sweat lodge being just bulldozed down and artifacts, sacred pipes.
Right. Yeah. Well,
explain the significance
of
that.
So people think they're called peace pipes. That's not what they ever were called. When you smoke the chanupa or you carry the chanupa, it means that you have made a commitment to spirit to not lie. And if you break that vow, like the government did when it said, oh, this is your land, sign this treaty, everything will be fine. There are severe consequences that come back to the person who has done that, or the group that has done that. They have no idea what they've done to their own spirituality. And unfortunately, often the consequences will rebound to their families, not by the tribes. I'm talking about from Creator, because that is such a sacrilege. You don't do things like that. I feel sorry for them because.
But what happened to the pipes?
Oh, the pipes were all destroyed.
That's what you haven't shared.
Yeah, the pipes were not returned, they were not destroyed. They were destroyed, and Arva Looking Horse, who, as you know, is the spiritual leader of the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota Nation, went to retrieve them, and they showed him a pile of junk and said, if you want to dig through and try to find them, go ahead. There was no doing it. So those are gone. That would be like having somebody rip a cross off your neck if you were a Catholic or a nun or a priest, and burning it in a fire.
But you could, as horrendous as that is, you can replace that to replace the pipe. It's not like you go to the store and go,
Yeah, no.
I'll take that one.
No.
It's,
And many times they're pipes that people worked for years to create
I remember,
as
yeah.
investing part of themselves in the creation of that sacred pipe. So it is a really large offense, and it is really something that doesn't bode well. I would like to believe in my heart that all that has gone back in the history of this country with Native Americans and African Americans and Chinese Americans and Japanese Americans, that somewhere along the line we've started to learn our lesson. Bless.
Thank you.
But we all need to be blessed in this current time. But the outcome of this election, in which someone today said something very powerful to me. They said, I don't understand. I know so many really good people that voted the other way. And I shared with her something that was said to me.
What's the other way?
Meaning that they
It's
voted.
not mince words, we're not here to beat around the bush.
That voted for Donald Trump. And a woman, I said to her today, I'm going to share something that a man said to me many years ago. And I had been explaining that I was really opposed to a particular bill going before the Connecticut legislature, and so was this gentleman. But I did comment that the governor at the time was somebody I felt was a good person, that I knew and thought was a good person. And his comment to me set me back on my heels. What he said to me is, good people don't do things like that.
Agreed.
And that's what I said to her. I said, you may think they're good people, but good people don't support what he put out there. Misogyny, hating women, Islamophobia to the Muslims. And by the way, I saw an article today from the New York Times saying that one of his closest advisors is advising internment camps for Muslims until they can be cleared and not be considered a danger to this country. Donald Trump has already said to the New York Times, yes, he's going forward with making all Muslims register with the US government. And the other side of me that's not native is Jewish. And let me tell you how that makes me feel, because that's what happened in Nazi Germany. The Jews had to register, and we know where that went after that. So what he proposed, his jobs are all overseas for his companies, but yeah, he's going to bring jobs back to America. Well, if he did, why didn't he start with his own? And when asked, he said, well, because I'm a businessman and I need to make the most amount of money I can make. So will any of his colleagues who are businesses overseas want to make less money and bring their jobs back? People were conned. And I think as we move forward into this very, very uncertain and dangerous time that we're in, I refer to it as a dystopia. It is the reversal of everything that we say we stand for. And in that context, acknowledging what happened to natives and African Americans. And I mean, our history is not a good history. It's built on a very false foundation. We like to say we're this great nation, but we've never made up for what our foundation is. And I worry for all of our people.
Well, all of the astrologers and the numerologists and the tarot readers and all the intuitives and the psychics all predicted a win by Hillary. And they said everything lines up. The shamans said something bigger is at work here. There is something that we can't even comprehend. And we also believe that whoever can create the most fear will suck in the most followers and supporters. And Trump created so much fear just with his words, and then in the same breath he said, but I'll save you from all those horrible things. And people fell for it, because one of my dearest friends supported him and then said, but I didn't know he wants to put the pipeline through. Right. To which I say to people, how can you have voted for someone that you didn't do your research? Right. So a big part of our country cared more about jobs or the perception of prosperity than caring about the earth, caring about human rights, just caring about
people,
decent human behavior.
Right. Well, and the irony of the whole thing is that under President Obama, Jobs have gone way up. The economy is up. The debt is down. Unemployment is unheard of at the levels that it is now, so little. And yet that was buried all underneath this diatribe that was going on. Fear-mongering and all the darkness. I mean, we have a huge wave of darkness across America, and the world is worried. The world is very worried. When we talk to our friends overseas, they can't believe that this has happened in the United States of America. So we have to be alert. We have to be prepared to non-violently, peacefully, but powerfully resist. We cannot, I mean, you're hearing the media say, well, give them a chance. I'm not going to give them a chance to what? Take away women's rights? Put Muslims in internment camps and make them register with it? I'm not going to support that. I will resist that all the way as a peaceful, powerful manner. But I will not support what that is, because we're being also told, well, you got to give them a chance. Well, they didn't give President Obama a chance. And I'm not saying it's a tit for a tat, but this is a whole different bowl of wax. This isn't my candidate lost, and I'm upset.
Yeah,
We've been through that, yes. So I think it's really vital for people to stay up to speed. Start reading independent news sources, reliable,
some
independent.
that you like.
Well,
We'll put them in writing.
okay. Well, Democracy Now! Is a great
Because
one.
we have 2 minutes.
Right. Democracy Now! Is a great one. The Nation is another very good one. Huffington Post is a great one. There are a series of ways that you can get direct information that isn't being filtered through somebody else's viewpoint. You can go Google banks funding the Dapple line, and you'll come up with about 14 major banks, several of which are in the United States doing business.
Take your money out and tell
Absolutely.
them why.
Tell them why. And they say you want them to stop funding the pipeline and remove your money, because money speaks, sadly, but it's true. You can go to standingrock.org to get the up-to-date information from the tribe itself, and you can go to Indian Country Today. And that is a very, very powerful online newsletter that talks about what's happening not just in South and North Dakota, but also in Navajo country, where they're going after their sacred mountain, where they're going through pipelines out in Washington and Oregon. It's not just exclusive. This happens to have rallied the largest gathering of Native Americans in the history of America. There are over 270 tribes participating, cities across America that have sent resolutions in that their legislatures have passed. It's an amazing gathering of people, and it's a starting point for all of us to hold the line and not destroy Mother Earth, because she's not replaceable.
Yeah.
And when we start fracking in the national parks, they're gone. And it's not something that we can just say, oh, oops, and reverse it. So we really need to hold the line now, and we need to use our financial power, our spiritual power to make that happen.
So no matter who you are, where you are, who you voted for, you can do some things now. So thank you for joining us. Rochelle, thank you for taking time out of
thank you
your
for covering
outrageously busy schedule. We will stay in touch. We will keep you up to date. Thanks for joining us on the Sacred Journey. See you next time.